What is up guys, Sushi Mancer here. In this video I'm going to be covering a deck on Ovika and Enigma Goliath. Ovika Enigma Goliath is a 7 mana EZ commander that it's a Phyrexia nightmare that has a 6/6 body, has flying, ward 3, pay 3 life, and she reads whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create X 1/1 red for X and goblin creature tokens where X is the mana value of that spell. They can haste until end of turn. So in this deck, we're going to use her ability. Once you play her, actually, use her ability to create 1/1 for X and goblins. And then some of them you sacrifice to Skirk Prospector to add 1 red. But in general, you can basically use cantrips that I will get to in a second to draw cards, create tokens, and just swing for damage. So in this deck, it's actually $24.54, so it's relatively budget. In this deck, we have 10 creatures, one being Archaeomancer, Dualcaster Mage. Oh wait, let me get to this. Archaeomancer, when it enters the battlefield, you may return target instant or sorcery from your graveyard to your hand. Dualcaster Mage, it's 3 mana, 2 red, 2/2 human wizard that has flash, and reads whenever Dualcaster Mage enters the battlefield, copy target instant or sorcery spell. You choose new targets for that copy. We have Ghostly Pilferer. It's a 2 mana, 2/1 spirit rogue that when Ghostly Pilferer becomes untapped, you may pay 2 if you do draw a card, or you can discard a card and it can't Ghostly Pilferer can't be blocked. Or whenever an opponent casts a spell from anywhere other than their hand, draw a card. So if you have this very early on and people start playing their commander, you can draw a card just for them playing their commander, which I think is very good value. And especially in a budget like this, card draw is very helpful. Goblin Electromancer, all instants and sorceries cost 1 less, just like a small reducer. Then we have Murmuring Mystic, almost the same ability as Ovika, but this one creates 1/1 blue bird illusions. Then we have Narumaya, goes infinite with Ghostly Flicker. Narumaya is a human wizard that has flash, and when reads when Narumaya Master Wizard enters the battlefield, copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose new targets for the copy, and other wizards gets +1/+1. So Narumaya, I'm actually just going to bring this up. Narumaya and Ghostly Flicker goes infinite. You play Ghostly Flicker, you play Narumaya, targeting Ghostly Flicker on the stack. You bounce a land and Narumaya. They enter again. You copy Ghostly Flicker. You bounce a land and Narumaya again. Then you net mana as you bounce and tap the land that you bounce for not infinite, but let's say a lot of let's say 1,000,000 mana. And then you use that mana to cast spells with Ovika, but I'll get to that in a second. Then we have Pashalik Mons. It's a 3 mana 2/2 goblin warrior that reads whenever Pashalik Mons or another goblin creature you control dies, Pashalik Mons deals 1 damage to any target. And then for 3 mana you can sacrifice a goblin to create 2 other red goblin tokens. So with Ovika's ability, you create 1/1 red for X and goblin creature tokens. They gain haste. You go to combat and you start attacking with those goblins. They die, and through Pashalik Mons you can ping any target for 1 damage per goblin. So you can basically but you can use her as a side removal. Then we have Peregrine Drake, also goes infinite with Archaeomancer and Ghostly Flicker and Peregrine Drake. You bounce Peregrine Drake, untap 5 lands. Archaeomancer enters the battlefield again, and then you can return Ghostly Flicker to your hand. You can bounce Peregrine Drake and Archaeomancer again, and that way you generate an infinite mana by untapping lands. Then we have Skirk Prospector that I mentioned, sacrifice a goblin to add 1 red. You have Tolerant. For each instant or sorcery, you create a 2/2 blue Drake. Same as Murmuring Mystic and Ovika, but you create 2/2 blue creature tokens, Drake creature tokens with flying. And in this deck, you will you'll be looting a lot, and you will be utilizing a lot of mana, and you will most definitely create a lot of 2/2 Drakes. Witty Roastmaster, whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Witty Roastmaster deals 1 damage to each opponent. So in this deck, let's say you cast a spell for 4 mana, you create 4x 1/1 red for X and goblins, and then with the Roastmaster triggers, and then you deal 4 damage to each opponent. So there's a lot of synergies in the deck, as well as Young Pyromancer. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a 1/1 red elemental creature token. So the name of the game is to generate a lot of tokens, trigger with your Roastmaster, and use Avika's ability to generate a lot of tokens, and hopefully just swarm the board and deal a lot of damage. So I'm gonna get to the sorceries, because most of them is basically discard 2 cards, draw 3. For example, with Cathartic Reunion. Then you have Chart the Course. You draw 2 cards and discard a card unless you attack with the creature this turn. And it's very easy to do that, so you might just draw 2 cards for 2 mana, which is very great value. Then you have Divination. Draw 2 cards for 3 mana. And then with Ovika, you create 3/1/1 Phyrexian goblins. We have Faithless Looting. It was so good it was banned in Modern, so being budget, I'm going to include it in every red deck. It's just so good. And then Ravenform. Ravenform is a 3 mana sorcery where you exile target artifact or creature. It controls create a 1/1 blue bird creature token with flying. You can foretell it for 1. So what you basically do is you exile this face down for 2 mana by foretelling it in your during your turn. And then later on for 1 mana you can cast it out of exile, and then you can use its ability. So you turn a creature or artifact into a 1/1 bird. That is to get rid of a lot of combo pieces. Then we have Scour All Possibilities. For 2 mana you scry to draw a card, and then it has Flashback for 5 mana. Now note, Avika says where X is the mana value of that spell. So I believe the mana value of this would be 5. So you would create 5 just from a flashback. I can be wrong. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's how I understood it. I can be wrong, but that is how I understood it. Then we have Step Through. It's 5 mana. Return 2 target creatures to their owner's hand. But in this deck, the main thing you want to be doing is you want to use wizard cycling. So by cycling, playing 2 mana and then cycling it, you can search your library for a wizard card, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle. So this acts as a 2 mana wizard tutor, and there's a lot of wizards to tutor for. You can tutor for Archaeomancer to net a Peregrine Drake combo, Dualcaster Mage to use Dualcaster Mage and Twin Flame, which I will get to in a second, Narumeha. You can tutor for Talrand, and Talrand, that's it. So you can tutor for a lot of key pieces depending on what you need. Then we have Treasure Cruise. It's a 8 mana sorcery spell with Delve that lets you draw 3 cards. So a lot of looting in this deck is going to fill Treasure Cruise, and then at the end of the day, with Ovika out on the battlefield, X will be 8, and then you create 8 1/1 red Phyrexian goblin creature token. Sorry, that's actually relevant. And then Twin Flame. I'll explain to you why I have Twin Flame in the deck. So with Dualcaster Mage, if you play Twin Flame targeting anything, like any creature, any number of, so like any creature, like any one creature, so that it costs 2 mana, you play Dualcaster Mage. It enters the battlefield if it resolves, and then you copy Twin Flame. Then the copy of Twin Flame you target Dualcaster Mage, and then you create another copy of Dualcaster Mage, and that Dualcaster Mage, and that Dualcaster Mage targets Twin Flame, and then it creates a loop where you create, let's say, 10 10 4 30,000 dualcaster mages, and then you attack, then you move to combat and attack all your dualcaster mages, 10,000 each to opponents, and then hopefully you will be able to deal lethal depending on what the situation is. But in a perfect world, this will net you infinite dualcaster mages, 10,000 dualcaster mages per player, and then you can just swing and deal damage because they do gain haste through Twin Flame. Then we have Wild Guess. It's just a 2 mana. As you, yeah, it's basically 2 mana, discard a card, draw 2 cards. And then we have a Braid for some removal, 3 damage to target creature or destroy target artifact. Sorry. This is the instance. Then we have Anticipate. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand, and the rest at the bottom of your library in any order. Then you have Battleheim, which I think is pretty cool. It's pretty cool in this deck. For 2 mana, you add 1 red for each mana for each creature you control. So let's say you have a board of, let's say you created 8 1/1 Phyrexian goblins. You net 8 red mana, and then you can use that mana for other stuff. Let me just do this. I accidentally closed that tab. Then we have Blink of an Eye. For 2 mana, you can return target non-permanent is on this hand, and then if you kick it, you can draw a card. Sorry, and then Chemist's Insight. You basically draw 2 cards for 4 mana, and then it has Jumpstart where you discard and then draw 2, and then it gets exiled. Then we have Deliberate, one of the cards that I liked in standard. It's scry 2, draw a card. Instant speed as well, so you can react or play it at an end step and so on. Then you have Dispel, some counter magic. It basically counters target instant spell. For 1 mana, so I think it's very good. I like it a lot. Then you have Displace. So with Displace, you can exile Peregrine Drake and Archaeomancer, and then you untap 5 lands. Archaeomancer enters the battlefield, you return Displace to your hand, and then you can just keep on doing this to net infinite mana. Infinite enter the battlefield trigger, and then hopefully with all the card draw in the deck, you can storm off, create a lot of 1/1 Phyrexian goblins, and then swing for a lot of damage. Then we have Dizzy Spell, which I kind of like. It's a 3 mana that shrinks down a creature by bringing its power to -3. But you can also transmute it for 3 mana to look for any 1 mana instant or sorcery. For example, Dispel, Peak, Otherworldly Gaze, Spell Pierce, Turn Dismissal, and so on. And then we have, let me just get, I'm still a little bit new to this. We have Airtice, new to the Mox field because it's a lot easier to use than actually downloading each image, because that's what I used to do. Airtice Scorn is a 3 mana counterspell, but if it costs 1 less if an opponent casts 2 or more spells this turn. Sorry. You have Fact or Fiction. This is very good. I don't know. I can't emphasize enough how good this is. You reveal the top 5 cards of your library, and opponent separates the cards in 2 piles. Put 1 pile into your hand and the other into your graveyard. So the opponent is not going to know your game plan. If you use this, they will most likely split it up 3-2 or 3-2 in general. And then you just choose what you need and you net 2 cards for 4 mana. But it's a very weird card to use, but it has helped me so much because you dig 5 cards down and then you choose what you need. Then we have and it's 4 mana, so it creates 4 goblins, which is the name of the game in this deck. You have a 2 mana discard a card, draw a card, and it has rebound. So you can cast it at the beginning of the next upkeep, your on your turn on the at your next upkeep, and it is instant speed. It's a little bit worse than Faithless Looting, but it's instant speed at least. Then Ghostly Flicker, it's the infinite mana it's for infinite mana combo piece. To have Impulse, someone suggested this on previous YouTube videos. It is strictly better than Anticipate because it digs one card deeper, but I also added it to the deck because you want to be digging for combo pieces. It's a 2 mana insert that reads: look at the top 4 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand, and the rest at the bottom of your library in any order. So it's basically Anticipate, but it's one card better. Into the Royal is close to Blink of an Eye. Same story. It's just a different print and artwork, a different name card and artwork. So it's exactly the same as Blink of an Eye. And I think I'm not sure about the mana value there. I think it would be 4, but I can be wrong. Then we have we have Mission Briefing. It's one of the cards that I like a lot because you Surveill 2, you can mold 2 cards, and then you can choose an instant or sorcery card from your graveyard. Then you can cast that spell. If it would be put into your graveyard this turn, exile it instead. Sorry. So let's say you have Dispel or let's say you have Blink of an Eye or Dispel in your graveyard. You can play this Surveill 2, so you look at the top 2 and then you can roll anything. And then you can choose, let's say, Dispel and cast it for 3 mana. But you're surveilling 2 and playing the spell from your graveyard, so you get to in a sense dig for any combo piece or rearrange the top of your library. Mission Briefing is so good. I love this card. And then we have just play Negate, counter target non-creature spell. It's a very common card. Then we have Otherworldly Gaze. It was printed recently. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, put any number of them into your graveyard and the rest back on the top of your library in any order. Then for 2 mana, flashback, you can cast it again. They actually on Arena they changed this wording to Surveill 3 instead of this explained out text. But it's basically Surveill 3. There's no difference really. Then we have Peak. Instant 1 mana instant. Look at target player's hand, then draw a card. I think it's very good. It's basically like it's like a Zetaxian Pro, but it's not free. Do you have Radical Idea? 2 mana draw card. It has Jumpstart as well, where you discard, and then it's exile, but you draw a card. We have Resculpt. I used this once. It's pretty cool. You exile target artifact or creature. Its controller creates a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token for 2 mana. This is to get rid of, let's say, infinite mana combo piece because you do exile in blue, which I think is very relevant. Let's say the opponent is playing graveyard shenanigans, because that is what happened. He demonstrated the loop where he would reanimate this one artifact continuously, sacrificing it to Ashnod's altar and then reanimating it to net colorless mana. And then in response, I was says like, okay, well, I'm going to resculpt, and then it stopped the loop. Then we have Sinister Sabotage, one of the counter magic in the spell, 3 mana, counter target spell, and then you get to Surveill 1, which is very cool. Spell Pierce, it's a turn 1 counter target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 2, which is very cool. You can counter someone's Soul Ring if you hate them. You can counter any fast mana or any non-creature spell that's threatening you, and in a high level magic pod and magic game of 4 players, you can counter any non-creature spell unless it pays 2, so you can keep 1 blue mana open and watch someone untap to play a card like a board wipe or something very early in the game, and then you can counter it for 2 mana. I don't think I need to explain how high spell pierce is good, but it's very efficient at what it does. Then we have Stern Dismissal, return target artifact, target creature or enchantment an opponent control to its owner's hand. You can target your own stuff, but it's a very good bounce. It's better than Unsummon because Stern Dismissal hits enchantments as well. So yeah, it's enchantments as well and not just creatures. Then you have Supreme Will. It's a 3 mana counter spell and is a pay 3, or you can look at the top 4 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of any bottom of your library in any order. So let's say you keep mana open, you see, well, someone's not going to play any threats. You use the mana to look at the top 4 and then you can just continue keeping mana open. And I think it's just a very cool thing to have. I include it in most of my blue decks because it's just good. It's never a, like, let's say you draw like a counter spell even, there's nothing you can really do with it if nobody plays spells. With this, with Supreme Will, you can actually dig 4 cards into your deck and look for something else. Then we have Thirst for Discovery. Some of the first cards are added to this deck because it's a 3 mana loot, and it's basically 3 mana, draw 3 and discard a land. That's a basic land. It's pretty cool. So Thirst for Discovery is a 3 mana instant that reads draw 3 cards, discard 2 cards unless you discard a basic land, and you have 36, so the chances are good that you'll be able to discard a basic land. But even if you don't, you loot 3 and discard 2, so I think that's a pretty good deal. Then we have Thirst for Knowledge, draw 3 cards, discard 2 unless you discard an artifact, same as Thirst for Discovery, but you just discard artifact. Then Thirst for Meaning, you discard an enchantment, same story as others. In this case, there's not a lot of enchantments, so you will most likely discard 2 cards. But the whole idea of why I included these 3 in the deck is to basically loot as far as possible with the mana you have, and then hopefully draw into counters, into combo pieces. Because one of the reasons I included so many infinite mana combos is to be able to play Ovika, Enigma Goliath relatively soon, so that you can start the engine. But even if you play around turn 7, I think you have you're in a very good position anyways. Then we have Whirlwind Denial, 3 mana instant. For each spell and ability your opponent control, counter it unless it's a controller pays 4. Now this helped me in one game actually that I played with my one Jody N deck at a local game store in Somerset West. So you basically counter abilities an opponent controls, or you control spells. So let's say a opponent is having a counter spell war, and you're like, you know what? I don't want any of these spells to resolve anyways. Let's counter each ability and spell on the stack, unless they pay 4, which I think it's insane. And let's say, because this happened actually, someone played Peregrine Drake and he would have untapped 5 lands. So I bounced his Arcane Signet to his hand and then used Whirlwind Denial to counter the Peregrine Drake trigger. And then he was 1 mana short from going infinite with infinite turns. And it went to my turn and I basically won the game. So I fell in love with Whirlwind Denial since it was released, and it's been proving to me that it's very, very good. Getting to the artifacts, we have a Commander Sphere. It taps, it's 3 mana, it taps for any color, but you can sacrifice it to draw a card. If you draw it in the late game and you want cards instead of mana rocks. Then we have Fire Diamond, it's a 2 mana, it enters tap and it taps for 1 red. Then we have Izzet Kirun, 3 mana, it taps for blue and red. You can turn it into a creature by paying 2 mana. And then whenever Izzet Kirun deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. So I've actually never turned this into a creature. you basically use it as a mana rock, but knowing that you can loot as well is pretty cool. We have Is It Locket. There's a 3 mana tap for blue and red, and then for hybrid mana, Is It Hybrid Mana, you can sacrifice it to draw 2 cards, which is a good deal. Um, then we have Is It Signet 2 mana, and then you pay 1 to add blue and red to your mana pool, which is very good if you're not going to use it on the same turn that you play it. Liquid Metal Torque, it's a 2 mana artifact that taps 1, and then you can turn a non-permanent into an artifact. But you're basically using it because it's very efficient mana. Paying 2 mana for 1 colorless, like Mind Stone and Liquid Metal Torque, is good value. But with Mind Stone, you can tap 1 mana, sacrifice it to draw a card. Then we have Replicating Ring. I actually played with this once, and I managed to create copies of Replicating Ring. It was quite funny. So Replicating Ring is a 3 mana snow artifact that taps for any color. And it reads, at the beginning of your upkeep, put a night counter on Replicating Ring. Then if it has 8 or more night counters on them, remove all of them and create 8 colorless snow artifact tokens named Replicating Ring with add 1 mana of any color. Then we have Sky Diamond, same as Fire Diamond. You tap it for 1 blue, but it enters tapped for 2 mana. Then we have Soul Ring, because expensive mana wise, expensive CMC commander needs a Soul Ring and all the ramp it can get. Then we have 2 enchantments, one being Trail of Evidence. So with Trail of Evidence, each instant and sorcery spell lets you investigate, and those clues you can pay 2 mana to sacrifice and draw a card. Then we have Verity Circle. Whenever a creature an opponent controls becomes tapped, if it wasn't being declared as an attacker, you may draw a card. This is crazy. This is crazy good. In some situations, it's obviously not the best, but against green decks that uses mana dorks, Verity Circle draws you cards like crazy. I played one commander game on Magic Online, and the opponent used even his commander was a mana dork. So on turn, I think it was turn 3 or turn 2, I think turn 3, he had 3 creatures, and he tapped all 3 of them, and I drew 3 cards. It was crazy. It was a lot of fun. And then we have 36 lands. So I think I went through all the possible combos and synergies, but just a quick recap. Dualcaster Mage and Twin Flame, you create infinite Dualcaster Mages with haste. They do have haste. Peregrine Drake and Archaeomancer displace Aura Ghostly Flicker, nets you infinite mana. And then with Trial of Evidence, each instant or sorcery spell you control, you played, lets you investigate. So if you keep on casting Displace or Ghostly Flicker, you create two clues that you can pay 2 mana to sacrifice and draw a card. So that's 1 infinite mana outlet. With Verity Circle, you can tap down all creatures without flying, and then you may draw a card. And then you can play a commander and use a very wide range of cantrips and draw spells to draw a cards. And I think this deck was a blast to build. I actually thought of a lot of ways you could break Ovika, and I think I thought of using Skirk Prospector and Battleheim to net you mana to use more cantrips and draw spells. Was a cool synergy, and I think it's relatively new, so I'll have to see how people build her. But using her ability to create specifically Phyrexian Goblin tokens was cool. I mean, building this deck, I had a lot of fun. I basically, like, the first thing I did, I do this in every deck that's red. I add Dualcaster Mage and Twin Flame. I add these two, Twin Flame and Dualcaster Mage, because it's a 5 mana infinite haste creature combo, and I think it's just crazy good. Why would you not run that in a deck that's red? I wouldn't say the cards are very redundant. Twin Flame, Twin Flame does create a copy of a target creature, but they can haste and they get exiled. But um, I think it's probably best with Volcaster Mage, unless you want reducers or another Murmuring Mystic or Cozy Pilferer. But yeah, I think the deck has a lot going on. Infinite mana combos, uh, a dual caster mage combo, a Basilic and Skirk Prospector Goblin combo. Also, something to note with infinite mana and Basilic mons, you can sacrifice a goblin and then create 2 red goblin creature tokens. And then for 4 mana, you can sacrifice one of those and then generate another 2, and sacrifice one and generate another 2. And then for each time you do this, you can deal 1 damage to any target, which is this is cool. I think that's really cool. And yeah, I don't know what else to say about this deck. It will it will take a lot of a while to decipher for anyone that isn't familiar with the combos, but that's how I broke Ovika Enigma Goliath in a very budget friendly way, because the budget card pool, the commander pool is getting larger and larger as sets are released, but the cards that you can use are still very limited. Some of the cards they spike in price. Um, like Soul Ring used to be Soul Ring used to be quite a lot, but it has since dropped down to $1.6, which is well, like, which is a lot of the budget. But not having a Soul Ring in a deck just feels bad, and I'm very glad the pricing dropped. I actually wonder, you see, like some of the cheapest one is, oh no, that's not cheapest, that's MTGO cheapest. But yeah, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you're not subscribed yet, please subscribe. I want to get my subscriber. I want to get more subscribers. I want to build a community of budget commander players that all have the same goal: to play budget, have fun, and see what they can do with the budget that they have. Even if you're starting out in commander, decks like this is perfect for you, because it helps you discover your playstyle. I want to build more fair decks, like creature heavy decks, like a Odric warrior tribal, or um just a creature heavy deck, instead of just combos and loot spells and interaction, for a more casual commander game. But if you like this type of content, subscribe. I'm not gonna stop making videos. Sometimes I do find it hard to build decks around some commanders, and then I wait for a new set to be released, and then I look at all of them and I'm like, you know what, I want to build this with this, and I want to use, like, now I want to use Ovika and loot spells to create Phyrexia and goblins, and then have them swing for damage. And I think it will be a lot of fun to play with. And it is $42.54 on MGT Goldfish. So it's very cheap. This, I don't know exactly how much this deck would be in my currency. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Sorry for monologuing the last minute. But yeah, guys, I'll see you guys in the next video, and I hope you enjoy this.